I'm just saying. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Yesterday I made a video over inequalities, which is comparing and ordering of numbers. In this case, it was decimal numbers. Today, I'm making a second video of rounding. I made one in my first class. Now, you've rounded before. You've rounded in school the whole time here. You've done all this rounding. The only extra rounding that you're learning in 5th grade is to round to the nearest hundredth. And let's just... So rounding to the nearest hundredth means we have to have a number in the thousandths place. Okay, so we're rounding to the nearest hundredth. The hundredth, if we think of pennies, because it takes 100 pennies to make a dollar, takes 100 hundredths to make one. The hundredths is 2 places behind the decimal point. Now, I know you're watching closely. When we're rounding, we underline the digit we're rounding. The digit we're going to either add 1 to or we're going to add 0 to. The number behind it determines whether we are adding 1 to that number or 0 to that number. So if I look here, I have a 9. Behind it, I have a 6. So am I adding 1 or 0 to my underlined number? Anybody? 1. And this is the precise reason why I say add 1, not just move it up, not just raise the score, as sometimes you've learned in the past. Okay, behind it is going to stay, it's going to turn into a 0. Any numbers behind it, we don't mess with. We just leave them off as zeros. Now I add my 1. 9 and 1 is 10. I have to regroup. So I took 10 hundredths and made it into 1/10. And 9 and 1 is 10. And I carry, my decimal point comes straight down. 3 and 1 is 4. So actually rounding 3 and 996 thousandths, if I'm rounding it to the nearest tenth, it actually rounds to 4. I could make it 4 and 0 hundredths, or 4 and 0 thousandths, 4 and 0 billionths, or whatever. I could put as many zeros back here as I want, but it's not going to change the value. 4. Even though I rounded to the nearest hundredth, it still changed the numbers in front of it because you're adding 1. So you have to, I want to see the math. I want to see the adding of 1 or the adding of 0.
Adding of 0? That's crazy.
I know, but I want to see it because that might be crazy, but so am I. Let's look at another one, rounding to the nearest hundredth. We have the number 2 and 643 thousandths. Rounding to the nearest hundredth, what numbers am I going to underline? Somebody tell me.
4.
4. 4 is in the hundredths place. I look behind it. Behind it in the thousandths place is a 3. So am I going to add 1 or am I going to add 0 to the hundredths place? 0.
Why do we have to add 0?
Because your teacher's a jerk and wants to see it.
What are you talking about?
Everything comes down. Decimal point always comes straight down. Looking at some of the adding and subtracting decimal points yesterday, I saw decimal points in the wrong place. When you're adding and subtracting, it comes just straight down. Easy peasy, raw chicken squeezy. I'm just telling you. That's the way it rolls. You'll have to round to the nearest tenth, which you've done if you attended school before today. You've done it. So let's say we have 7 and 65 hundredths. Rounding to the nearest tenth. What number's in the tenths place?
6.
The 6. I look behind it. 7 and 65 hundredths. Behind it is a 5. Am I going to add 1 or am I going to add 0 to the 6? I'm going to add 1. That's 7, and that's a 7. I can put that 0 there. What I can't do is just put the 5 behind it. The 5's going to go away. It's going to become zeros. Everything behind the number you're rounding, they become zeros because we're rounding it. If you put the 5 there, you didn't round it, you just changed it. Just like when we're rounding $19.95, round it to the nearest dollar, you don't say, $20.95. No, it's $20. Okay? So they got it goes away. Nearest whole number. When I say the nearest whole number, what place value am I talking about, anyone?
One.
Ones place. Man, you guys are smart. You must have had a good teacher this year.
Yeah.
That's me. So let's say 19 and 46 hundredths. You already told me we're rounding to the ones place. When it says whole number is the ones place. The 9 is in the ones place. I look behind it. Behind it there's a 4. Do I add 1 or 0 to the ones place? 0. So that stays a 9. And you can put 19.00. What you can't do is just move the 19 and 46 down. It's got to be zeros. And since the decimal point's here and it's just going to be zeros, I could just leave it 19. Or I could put 19.0 or 19.00 or 19.000 or 19.0000000000.
Infinite zeros.
Nearest whole number, one more. 326 and 93 hundredths. 326 and 93 hundredths. Here, my whole number is going to be my ones place. So I'm either going to add 1 or I'm going to add 0 to the ones place. I look behind it. Behind it, I have a number greater than 5 or greater than 4, which means I add 1. And so that's a 7, and that's a 2, and that's a 3. I can put these zeros here if I want. I don't have to. Why is it called a whole number?
Because it's like one whole. There's not any parts.
Good. There's no parts. Behind the decimal point are parts. These aren't one whole. They're parts of a whole. So everything behind the decimal point is a part of a whole. Just like a fraction is a part of a whole. It's not. It's less than one whole. So it's parts. Parts is parts. I'm just saying. Boom! Shakalaka, peace out. God bless. Love you. Do something kind today. Save the bees and please subscribe.